This video will show you how to solve systems of 3 equations and 3 variables. Here is an example of what it would look like. And so we have 3 equations and we have 3 variables. And then these would be the steps. So let me actually show you. So let's take a look at the steps. So what we want to do is we would like to pick 2 of the equations and eliminate 1 of the variables. And so for this example, we have to solve for x, y, and z. So there'll be 3 answers that we get. And if I take a look at the first 2 equations, I can easily add them and eliminate y. And so when you're trying to do the first step, find 2 equations that you think are easy to work with and pick those. The second step is pick another pair of equations, and you want to make sure you eliminate the same variable. And so I could choose like equation 2 and 3, and I would need to eliminate the same variable again. And then for step 3, solve the system of 2 equations and 2 variables. Once you've completed step 1 and 2, you'll be left with 2 equations and 2 variables. That goes back to the one of the previous videos we were looking at. So we solve those, and then we go to step 4, and you want to solve for the remaining variable, which would be the third variable. And then the 5th step is you want to check your answer by substituting all 3 solutions into all 3 equations, and then checking that the left side is equal to the right side. So let's start with the first example, and we're just going to follow the steps. Just want you to know that there are multiple ways to solve these problems. You know, it just depends on how you start the problem. So we don't all have to start the problem the same way. It depends on which 2 equations you start with. So for this example, like I said, I think it's easier to choose equation 1 and 2, and I could just eliminate y and get that first step done. So what I'm going to do is do that step first. Okay, so I automatically get rid of y. Notice that I did not have to multiply any of the equations. We will have to do that later, but at the moment we don't. We just automatically eliminate y. And then just write what you're left with. Okay, so I'm left with an equation that contains 2 variables. We have to use this in step 3, so I'm going to box it. Second step, pick 2 more equations. Eliminate the same variable. We eliminated y, so I have to eliminate y again. Okay, so what I could do is I can use equation 2 and 3. We could also use equation 1 and 3. I think 1 and 3 might be a better option because I already have a negative y here, and I would just have to multiply by 2, and then I could eliminate y. So what I'm going to do is just recopy this equation the way it is. So we're going to use equation 1 and equation 3. Okay, so we need to get rid of y. We have to multiply by 2, the whole equation. Let's write down what we get. You want to write down all your steps because it'll be easier for you to go back and figure out what you did. So multiply by 2, we get 4x minus 2y plus 6z is equal to 26. Recopy the second equation. We're going to add So we're left with the following. We're going to box it. So now we're going to do step 3. Step 3 is the part where you have 2 equations and 2 variables. And of course, they should be the same 2 variables, in this case x and z, because then we could use what we learned before. And I'm going to use the addition method, also called elimination method, to get rid of, in this case, z, because I think z is the easier equation to get rid of. And to eliminate z, we have to multiply the first equation by -4. So step 3, first I will just write my 2 equations the way they are. Okay, so like I said, multiply the first equation by -4 to get we're going to add, eliminate, and then we just basically write what we're left with. So we're left with -5x is equal to 5. From here, equal to -5. From here, we can solve for x, so we get that x is equal to 1. So step 3 is done. We still need to find one more variable. So once you find x, you're going to go back to one of these 2 equations, substitute x. I think I'm going to use this first equation just because the numbers are smaller, so it's easier to work with. I'm going to take 1 substituted for x right here, and we could solve for z. And then step 3 will be over, and then we can move on to step 4. So using this equation, substitute for x, and then we subtract 3, and we get that z is equal to 4. Okay, so I have 2 answers. I need to get the answer for the 3rd variable. To find the remaining variable, the last one, that is where we go back to the original 3, and you could pick whichever equation you want. The easiest equation, in my opinion, is the second one. And I'm going to substitute 1 for x and 4 for z, and we could solve for y. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm using the second equation and just substitute. Be careful with the signs. Combine, add 3. So we get our 3rd answer. So once you have all 3 solutions, then you're done. And remember that you need to make sure that you check your answer. So your answer can be written this way. You can also write your answer as an ordered triple, meaning I can write it in this way: x, y, z. So in this case, x is 1, y is 1, z is 4. So we can also write our answer this way. So this is called an ordered triple. Don't forget that you need to go ahead and do step 5. Step 5 is where you solve for, or step 5 is where you check your answer. So we need to take this and plug it into all 3 equations to check. So you can go ahead and do that on your own. We are going to move on to the second example. So here's the second and last example. So for this one, again, we have 3 equations and 3 variables, which means we have to have three solutions, usually. So what we're going to do is just look at these equations and see which one, which variable we want to eliminate and which 2 equations we would like to start with. So again, it's up to you. You can pick any two equations and you can pick any variable to eliminate. If your steps are correct, you will get the same answer as everyone else if they're using a different method or a different set of steps. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the first equation and the second equation, and in this case I'm going to eliminate z. Okay, so equation 1 and 2, and we want to eliminate z. So here's the first step. So the question is, what do I need to multiply by? You need to make one of these negative, and so it doesn't matter which one. I will just multiply the first equation by -1, and that will take care of it. And so this is what we get. We get -2x recopy the bottom. And we eliminate z. And then from here we just write what's left, and so we have -x plus 4y is equal to -5. I'm going to box this because we need to use it in the third step. We need to eliminate z again, so the idea is pick two more equations and then eliminate z in the second step. And so I can choose equation 2 and 3, and you will have to multiply the second equation by -4. So let's see what we get. First, I will just write the two equations that I'm going to use, and then we can multiply. You want to try to be as neat as possible with the steps, because if you make one mistake with a negative sign or a positive sign or any multiplication, the whole problem's wrong. And it's easier to go back and figure out what you did if you've written all the steps. So what we want to do to eliminate z is multiply the first equation by -4, and make sure you multiply everything by -4. Okay, so we have -4x minus 4y minus 4z is equal to 0. And I'm just going to recopy the second equation. So the nice thing here, if you notice, the nice thing is that I can actually eliminate two variables at the same time. And sometimes that will happen. And if you can eliminate two variables at the same time, it actually makes the problem a lot easier. So I eliminate x and z at the same time, and I can automatically solve for y. I do not need to really do step 3 anymore because I already have one of the solutions. See, right here we get -2y is equal to 4, and then we could just say that y is -2. So I automatically get an answer in the second step, which is great because once you have this answer, then I could take this and plug it into my equation here for y, and we could find x, and once you find x, you can find your answer for z, and then we're done. So this problem actually can be solved faster than the first one because of this right here, eliminating two variables at the same time. So let's see what happens here. I'm going to take -2. You have to plug it in here. So we have -x plus 4 times -2 is equal to -5. -x minus 8 is equal to -5. We're going to add 8 to both sides. So we get that -x is equal to 3. And so x comes out to be -3. Okay, so I have 2 solutions, and then we're just gonna basically do step 4, which is find the last variable, the third one. So to find the third variable, once you have 2 answers, is just go back to the original equations right here. And what I'm going to do is just substitute into the second equation. That is the one that's the easiest in my opinion. So we're going to substitute -3 for x and -2 for y. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to use this equation right here. So we're going to have -3 minus 2 plus z is equal to 0. That's going to give us -5 plus z is equal to 0. So we know that z is equal to 5. And if you want to write your answer as an ordered triple, remember, x, y, z in that order, it'll be -3, -2, and 5. And you are left to do step 5, which is take your solution here, substitute it into all 3 equations, and make sure the left side is equal to the right side. And that is the end of this video.